Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Little Acts of Kindness. This will be Part 48, Chapter 48, entitled Other Internships. Denki smiled as he continued to generate electricity, hands on the end of the electrical wire while repairmen worked on the transformer. He was spending his internship with Electoplant, an American hero with an electricity quirk. The hero had been called over during the UA Sports Festival as extra support, and had stayed behind for a chance to intern him. Denki had almost missed the internship offer, but luckily Jiro had pointed it out, telling him to get help on using his electricity. Being able to use it close range was cool and all, but Denki really wanted to figure out a way to direct it long range. Electoplant had given him a few suggestions, from using a conductive weapon, like a metal whip or a bow staff, to use to extend his range, to finding a way to get something conductive on a target that his electricity would naturally aim for. Denki knew focusing on close range was probably better for the short term, but the idea of facing head-on against villains was nerve-wracking. The quiz Aizawa-sensei had handed out had been one of the few tests Denki had actually had some fun with. He never really gave much thought to the different types of heroes before, but now thinking about it, he kinda liked the sound of being a support hero, helping other heroes in their fights. That was if he ever made it past being a sidekick. And a lot of those sidekicks never managed to go solo. They're sidekicks forever. That'll be you, Kaminari, you dunce. Jiro's words from before the sports festival echoed in his mind, forever etched. Denki sighed. She was probably right. How could he be a hero if using his quirk ended up being a danger to the allies around him? "So you're the one interrupting my plans," a smooth voice called out behind him, causing Denki to turn around and stare wide-eyed at the person who was floating in the air. The floating man had short, spiky black hair and black eyes. "Who are you?" Denki questioned the guy, confused. What did the guy mean interrupted his plans? Denki wasn't doing anything other than powering the area of the city that was suffering a blackout thanks to the cut electrical wires. His quirk being better suited than Electoplant's, who didn't generate nearly as much electricity, though he had better control over where his discharge went. "Me? I'm nature's scythe, helping nature return to its proper place and destroying these abominations we live in." "Huh? You mean the houses?" Denki questioned, confused. He was just chilling on one of those cool vehicles that extended and held the electrical wire, and some guy came up and started talking nonsense. Looking around, he saw Electoplant was off in the distance, talking with some civilians, and other people working on the transformer just shrugged at him when he sent a questioning glance. "Yes, of course I mean the houses. They are abominations, destroying our planet. I will force these people to leave the houses so I can destroy them." Okay, Denki said. This guy was pretty weird. An eyebrow twitched and the guy shook a fist. "I can't do that if you keep giving them electricity, kid." Denki blinked, things slowly clicking in his brain. "Wait, hold up. Are you saying you're the one who cut the electrical wires?" "Yes. People these days are so reliant on electricity that without it, they will be forced to move." "You do realize that the wires can be repaired, yeah?" Denki pointed out. The man, villain, waved a hand dismissively. "Which is why I came back to stop whatever progress was being made." "Right. Well, I can't let you do that, so you should leave." An eyebrow twitch. "You're not taking me seriously, kid, are you?" No," Denki said, shrugging a bit at the guy. A strong gust of wind seemed to pick up for a moment, but other than causing Denki to shift his balance, it didn't do anything. "I'll show you, kid," the man cried out, moving towards the electricians. Denki frowned. He knew he should stop the man, but was not allowed to use his quirk for fighting right now. In a moment of either pure geniusness or utter idiocy, he decided to throw the electrical wire at the guy. The wire hit the guy, and the electricity Denki had been charging it with discharged into him, causing his hair to go out straight and him to drop to the ground, twitching. The electrical wire now laid on the ground, discharged and safe-ish to pick up. Honestly, it might give a small shock still if any electricity still resided on it. Denki grinned. "Woo! I took down the villain by myself." One of the nearby electricians shot him a thumbs up, and soon he was being lowered onto the ground. The movement caught the attention of Electoplant, who blinked upon arriving. The man asked what happened, and so Denki explained. "Good job, kid. You said his name was Nature's Scythe?" Denki nodded. A while later the police arrived, and Denki learned the villain was considered a minor pest and had a small rap sheet and arrest sheet. Apparently, he would be going to prison for 1 to 3 years. As he grabbed the wire and was hauled back up, Denki pulled out his phone to play around with one hand. Looking through his Google feed, he blinked at seeing that there was a lot going on about that villain from Hosu, the hero killer if he remembered. So curious, he clicked the video. Minoru swallowed as he listened to each of the women and men talk, to think that his behavior came off like a rapist. He didn't think about that. He knew he was a pervert, and he made comments on women, but that's just how flirting was, right? Apparently not. Minoru always thought that was how it worked. After all, it was how his dad talked to the women on the side of the street, and how they always seemed to flock to him. Midnight explained that those women were prostitutes, and didn't care that his dad's behavior was unacceptable so long as they got paid for letting him have sex with them. Midnight told him that flirting was fine if he did it right, and he wasn't doing it right at all. Apparently the R-rated hero ended up calling Mount Lady and had the Minayama hero show him how to properly flirt, and the effect that sexual offenders had on others, which was why he was at a meeting where victims of sexual assault gathered to talk about their experiences and help each other overcome the trauma. They were told why he was here, and made sure he understood the importance of a woman saying no, and that touching his classmates without permission was definitely a no-go. Minoru promised that he would take these lessons to heart. Reiko shifted her position from side to side as she looked at her phone, idly browsing the news. Stain, 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 that was all the news stations were talking about. There were only a few minor articles that even mentioned his arrest. I should call Mother. Ask her what she thinks about Brother's arrest. As long as you guys are okay, you and Midoriya. I got super worried when he sent nothing but an address. Reiko glanced over to the 1A class students, Uraraka Chaco, friendly and honest. Seemed a bit too open with her thoughts. It would make it possible for someone to easily manipulate her to do what they wanted. Mother's probably already planning something about it. Oh, that's good, but take it easy for now. I'll hear about the rest later. Uravity, let's do some basic training, okay? Gunhead called over to Uraraka. The battle hero seemed to have taken a shine to her, helping her over his other students, though that was fine with Reiko. She didn't want the spotlight anyways. I hope Brother doesn't get himself into further trouble. Oh, sure, Uraraka said to Gunhead, turning back to her phone and rushing out. See you at school, then. Sorry all that bad stuff happened. Bye. Gunhead gave a small chuckle, hand covering his mouth. A love interest? No, that's not it. We're just friends. If he does get himself in further trouble, the sponsor won't be happy. Reiko's hand stopped moving briefly as Gunhead waved her over to join them. Moving over, she joined in the lesson, body moving even as her mind was a million miles away. He shouldn't have been caught. He's an idiot. Barely more than muscles. Of course he was going to get caught. Reiko continued to work through the routine, one of Gunhead's sidekicks helping her as the battle hero helped the Class 1A student. For a bit, her thoughts stayed focused on the task at hand. Was choosing Gunhead the best choice? Perhaps another hero would have given better insight. Reiko was learning quite a bit of martial arts, but then again martial arts had never been something she had particularly focused on, preferring to work on her quirk. Improving hand-to-hand skills will give a decent option, if someone comes close range and I can't use my quirk. Reiko practiced the moves the sidekick taught her, earning some praise from the sidekick while the battle hero cheered Uraraka on. Perhaps it would be wise to pull off another experiment. Reiko bowed to the sidekick as they called the lesson done for lunch, and she went to go eat. Maybe, but it could be a bit early. Perhaps I should hold off. As she ate, her eyes tracked over a nearby bee that was flying around. Tensei smiled as his brother brought in his two friends again. It was nice to have the company, and he got to put faces to a couple names, Todoroki, Endeavor's son, who apparently didn't like half of his quirk. From just listening to some of the unspoken words, it was clear to see that the family relationship with the Todorokis needed to be looked into. And then there was Midoriya. The boy raised all sorts of red flags, from the way he tucked into himself, from contact, never quite looked him in the eyes, to the way the boy would always seem to go mute for 10 minutes if someone called out his mumbling. He was also someone Todoroki and Tenya were fiercely protective of, his own brother having glared at him yesterday when Tensei commented on the mumbling being amusing. He hadn't even meant it in a bad way, just that Midoriya had an amusing thought process, though a bit worrying as well from the small amounts he managed to make out. more from reading his lips than actually hearing what he was saying. Tenya's phone rang, and the boy told him it was Uraraka before heading out of the room, leaving Tensei with Todoroki and Midoriya. Midoriya shuffled his feet, hand twitching a bit, and Tenya noticed that the boy seemed to be wanting to ask something, but was too nervous, afraid, to ask. "Got something on your mind?" The boy shook his head in a negative manner. "You sure? Whatever it is, I won't mind if you ask." The green-haired kid looked hesitant for a moment longer, and Tensei kept his expression open and easygoing. Is it true you dumped paint on Nezu?" Tensei blinked again, and then groaned. "Which one told you? Shota, Hisashi, or Nomuri?" The boy looked down, not answering. The Todoroki boy tilted his head, giving a confused look, so obviously not something that was told to the whole class. Interesting. "Come on. I need to know which one I need to return fire on. They told embarrassing stories about me. I should return the favor. Only fair, don't you agree?" Todoroki was nodding, looking very interested. Of course, what student wouldn't be interested in gossiping about their teachers? At that moment, Ida came in, followed by Shota and Hisashi. Tensei did notice the little sigh of relief Midoriya gave at the two teachers, how the boy drifted closer to them, almost unconsciously. How Shota and Hisashi kept casting glances at the kid and signing? Now that he noticed it, it looked like the two were signing a bit to the kid. "So, who's been telling stories about our school days?" Shota, like the bastard he was, turned smug. "Oh, I see how it is then. Well, maybe I should tell the kids about that incident with your capture weapon, the catnip, and the tree." Shota's eyes widened a bit, then narrowed, even as Tensei noticed the kid's eyes lighting up. Hisashi chuckled. "Gather round, kids. This is a good story about a racer." Tensei rolled his eyes at the two, but did see the three kids take seats in the hospital room, so he launched into the tale, making sure to be extra dramatic. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 48 of Little Acts of Kindness. Chapter 49 will be up next. Hope you all are still enjoying this one, and as always, thank you so much for listening.